So most agents think rejection means failure. We top producers actually look at rejection completely differently. In this video, I wrote down 3 reasons why rejection actually means you are on the right track and heading in the right direction with your business. In fact, I would argue if you aren't getting rejected at a high level as a real estate agent, you're probably going to be out of business soon. So before I dive in, if you learn something in this video, click subscribe and don't be shy. I get calls, texts, emails all the time with agents who watch these videos and have questions. And I'm always happy to help. So let's get into rejection. The first thing I wrote down here about rejection is if it's happening, it's usually happening quick. If you're prospecting and you're searching for listings and you're being rejected, it's usually you're the worst, a swear word, you yelled at in a few words, and then they're hanging up on you. These calls take 8 to 10 seconds, okay? That is literally the fastest thing, the best thing that could happen to your business. Anybody that prospects knows that real estate is a numbers game. Every agent has a certain contact number they're looking to hit each day because they know if they hit X contacts, they're going to set a listing appointment. It doesn't matter what those contacts say. If they duplicate that process every day, they're going to get a listing appointment every X contacts, whatever that number is for you, for that agent, right? So if a contact takes you 10 seconds, that is an absolute win. The worst prospecting call to make is the contact where you're on the phone 10, 15 minutes and they are not listing with you. They've actually made that clear, but they're talking in circles, talking about, and you can't get them off the phone. Or you're on the call 10, 15 minutes. It seems like you're going to set an appointment. You feel like you're there, and for whatever reason, you couldn't close them. Then you can't set the appointment. Those calls are the most detrimental to your business because they consume so much time. If you have 3 of those calls a day, you've literally wasted an hour, 45 minutes, an hour of your time by being on a call you thought was productive and wasn't. The FU no, the rejection no, takes 5 seconds. Next, that should not bother you as much as that call where you were on for 10, 15 minutes. That should eat you up inside. Not the FU no. They don't even know you. They're just having a bad day, right? So how you're framing the rejection is a big piece of this. If you're simply making the calls, if you're getting that FU rejection, it means you're on the right track. You're simply hitting your contact goal. That is a win. You're making the call. Trust me, 98% of your competition is not even bothering to make those calls, right? So you are a winner. That's the first thing I wrote down. Second thing I wrote down, the rejection is actually an objection, right? So what you're feeling as rejection, them saying, well, I think your commission is too high, or well, I got a brother or sister in the business or a good friend in the business, right? Or I've already made up my mind on an agent, or I can't believe what you're perceiving as rejection, shutting down and saying, okay, no worries, I'm always here if you need me. It's actually an objection. They're testing you. They're way past the FU no, the we hate you no, They're not that. This is someone that's listening, you've talked to them, and they're putting up a little bit of a wall. They're testing you. Can you solve a problem? Or do you just retreat at the first obstacle? It takes 3 to 6. It takes good agents 3 to 6 objection handlers / closes / whatever you want to call it / problem solving suggestions. It takes an agent 3 to 6 times to actually close, to get an appointment on a prospecting call, right? So if somebody says, I like what you're saying, Rob, but I got a family member in the business, I think we're just going to list with them. Do you just say okay? Or do you show them you hear them and provide a solution? Right now, I'm not going to get into all the solutions on this call. That's not the point. If this video resonates and you want to learn a little bit more about how we handle objections, or want to even look at live listing appointments, something like that, drop a comment below. I'm happy to send you another video that dives into more about objection handling. But for the purpose of this video, I want you to understand in every one of these scenarios, the rejection means you're on the right track. So if they're giving you an objection, show them that you can pass the test. Show them you hear what they're saying, but here's a solution. You hear what they're saying, but here's a solution, right? Pass the test. Most folks want an aggressive agent. They want to make sure they don't get an agent that just throws it on the internet and crosses their fingers, because they can do that on Zillow themselves. By you taking on their objections as challenges, you're showing them you're an aggressive agent and you're one that's willing to get out there and solve a problem for them. The third thing I wrote down, the rejection is a form of pressure. This happens when you have a buyer or a seller, you're currently under contract with them, and they are criticizing you. They are either yelling or critiquing or micromanaging or suggesting things that seem ridiculous. They're criticizing your techniques and your ability as an agent. This feels like rejection, but it's not. This is the case of a motivated client. What you have in this situation is a client that has to buy or sell. So they're just grasping at straws. Because their need to sell is so great or buy is so great, they're in attack mode. They have to get it done, so they're just grasping at straws. This is a chance for you to show that you're the professional. Be the calming force. Show them that you're listening. Hear them. Show them that they're being heard. Give them specific examples of how you've been through that same situation before and how you've handled the problem. And that being reactive is usually a no-win situation in real estate. In fact, a lot of people leave the most money on the table when they're being reactive. One of our jobs is to keep them level-headed and calm so they don't make those reactions, right? When the stock's going down in the stock market, it's not always the right time to bail just because it's going down, right? Usually you buy more depending on the situation and wait for the uptick. We have to be the calming force, right? So that pressure rejection, that's just because they have to sell or buy. That's why they hired us. The pressure is part of the job, and it shows that we have a motivated client, which after all, isn't that what we're all after? Don't we want that motivated client? So as you can see, there's different tiers to this progression of rejection. It can be subtle in the beginning. It can be a little more intense as you're starting to build a relationship. And then once you have the relationship, that's when this is an emotional thing, right? That's when people get upset, right? This is a big transaction. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of stress on someone's life when they're moving. We're here to help them through it. That's how we earn our money. So every stage of this rejection that we've talked about means you're on the right track, and it's the natural progress to an actual closing, to an actual sale. If you bail at any point in this process, you can't finish the job. You can't close the sale. If the pressure gets to you, if it's too much, if you take that rejection too personally at any of these stages, you can't make it to the finish line. So change your frame. Understand this is part of the process. It'll make it a little bit easier for you and your clients. If you learned something here, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And again, don't be shy. If you have questions, we are always here to help. Call, text, email. Go change the mindset and see how this works in the field. Have a great day.